Hi, I'm Eric Roque, and I'm going to discuss part 3 of Madame Bovary, Fast. Leon was in law school, but he couldn't stop thinking of Emma. When he got back, they met up and hung out. The next day, they agreed to meet at the church. But they weren't interested in church. They were interested in each other. So they rented a carriage, covered the carriage, and had sex. Madame Bovary learned that her husband's father had died. She didn't really care, but she had to pretend like she did. She got even madder when her mother-in-law decided to move in with them. Her moneylender brought her some unpaid bills, but she didn't have money to pay. He convinced her to get a power of attorney for her husband to make it easier. She easily swayed Charles to let her do it, and even convinced him to let her go to Rouen to let Leon take care of her paperwork. She spent 3 days with Leon, and it was like a honeymoon for them. They went to expensive hotels and fancy restaurants, and her travel expenses built up fast. But she continued to spend, and told Charles that she was taking piano lessons in Rouen to see Leon weekly. Leon and Emma became infatuated with each other, and looked forward to their weekly meetings. Every week, Emma spent her time with Leon as if she hadn't seen him in years, instead of just a few days. Emma's departure was always depressing, and she got sad as soon as she left Leon. Her week at home was always irritable and boring. She spent her time reading romantic novels and waiting for her next encounter with Leon. One time, she almost got caught with her lie because her husband saw her supposed piano teacher, and she said she didn't know who Emma was. But Emma lied to her husband again and showed him fake receipts from her supposed teacher. Another time, her moneylender saw her in Rouen with Leon, and she was worried he'd say something. Instead, he used it as a way to exploit her more and convince her to sell Charles's father's estate to pay off debts. She lost sight of her spending and continued to live more lavishly and extravagantly. Her debt continued to pile up. Despite her weekly meetings with Leon, she started to become unhappy again and started acting crazy. She remained unhappy and tried to control Leon's life. Her moneylender continued to come to her with more and more bills, but she didn't have the money, and he continued to trick her into buying more expensive stuff. She started to worry about her expenses and sold household goods to raise money. She even collected money from her husband's clients. He was a doctor. Despite all her collections, she continued to spend and get into more debt. She was crazy! Her husband saw something was wrong when she didn't do anything around the house, ignored her baby daughter, and refused to talk to anyone. She continued to see Leon and continued to live lavishly, but Leon didn't have that kind of money, so she gave him money that she borrowed. They continued to dislike each other, and Leon finally saw her relationship as a burden. He realized she was crazy and wanted to get rid of her. Their lovemaking was no longer passionate, but instead the result of boredom. She degraded herself by hanging around the wrong people and the wrong places. She received a court order saying that she owed 8,000 francs or she would lose her property. She went to her moneylender and begged for more time. He finally reached his goal of making her bankrupt and refused to help her out. The next morning, the sheriff's officers came to the house to take an inventory of all their goods. They even left a guard at their house to watch over Emma's actions. Somehow, she managed to hide all of this from her oblivious husband. As crazy as she was mad because she was guilty and not her husband. The next day, Emma went to Rouen and asked several bankers for a loan, but they all said no. She asked Leon too, but he didn't have that kind of money. Eventually, to get rid of her, he told her he would try to collect money and then tell her if he's successful. A couple days later, Emma learned the sheriff's office put their house up for auction in the ads. She went to see the town lawyer and asked for help. He said he would help her if she had sex with him. She quickly got angry and offended and stormed out of the office. Charles still had no idea what was going on at this point. Emma still hoped that Leon would gather the money for her, but knew it was unlikely. She kept growing bitter and frightened, and finally remembered she can ask Rodolphe, her first lover. She figured that she can take advantage of his attraction to her and use it to collect the money. In reality, she was prostituting her body, exactly what she refused to do for the town lawyer. Rodolphe was very surprised that Emma came to see him. She seduced him easily and then told him about her debts. He now understood why she came to visit and told her that he did not have that money. She knew she was lying, got mad, and stormed out. Emma finally realized how hopeless her situation was. She knew she wasn't going to get money in time. She walked through the fields aimlessly, daydreaming about her life. Eventually, she came up with a solution to her problems. She went away, took a large amount of arsenic, and ate it. She walked home slowly, knowing she would be dead soon. Finally, her husband learned what was happening to his property. He searched frantically for Emma, and eventually she got back home. She quietly gave him a letter and insisted he doesn't read it till the next day. Emma became ill quickly, and because of his concerns, Charles defied his wife and opened the letter, and she learned she had consumed poison. Although he was a doctor, Charles did nothing to help and instead called upon doctors from Rouen. He sat depressed on the bedside and cried. Emma cried too. For the first time, she felt compassion for her husband. The doctor soon arrived, but it was too late, and Emma died a very painful death. Charles was depressed for a very long time after Emma's death. His mother came by to help him recover, but she just wanted her son's attention again. Charles was having trouble letting go of Emma and kept delaying her burial. Finally, he insisted she be buried in her wedding dress. Ironically, this was a symbol for purity, and Emma was the furthest from pure. In the next few days, Charles was contacted by all of Emma's creditors, demanding their money be paid back. He tried to collect money from all his clients, but Emma had already done so previously. Nobody owed him anything anymore. In the meantime, Leon got married to a woman from a good family. Kind-heartedly, Charles writes him a congratulations letter and innocently says his wife would have been so happy to see him at his wedding. A couple nights later, Charles found a letter from Rodolphe in the attic. He was so naive, he thought that Rodolphe simply admired his late wife, and he was pleased to read such a sincere letter. He tried selling all the furniture to pay off his debts, but that was not nearly enough to pay off the total amount. For soft sentimental reasons, he refused to sell Emma's belongings. One day he found a lot of letters from Rodolphe and Leon. He had trouble accepting it, but finally acknowledged that Emma was unfaithful. This made him fall into a deep depression. He seldom left the house and avoided people as much as possible. One time, he went to Rouen to sell his horse and ran into Rodolphe. Rodolphe felt bad and acted cautiously, but Charles told him he knew the truth and was not mad anymore. He didn't hold a grudge against anyone. It was destiny's fault. The following day, Charles died peacefully in his garden. His remaining belongings were sold to pay his creditors off. Just enough money was left over to send his daughter to live with her grandmother. After she died, the daughter moved to live with an aunt. The aunt was so poor, Emma's daughter was forced to work at a cotton mill at the age of 7. The moral of the story is, Emma is crazy.